Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brand Unveiled podcast. Today's episode does include a special guest that I'm super excited for you to get to know. Here is some information about her. And yes, she is a part of our Black Women Entrepreneurs of America campaign, period. Lisa Carter is a serial entrepreneur with a passion for building brands. As the owner and chief engagement officer of Drinkwater Marketing and Productions, she works with small businesses and large size enterprises to develop brand, digital, and event marketing strategies to drive revenue. Prior to launching Drinkwater, she spent 20 plus years in the corporate sector building product and brand strategies for top Fortune 500 companies such as the Limited Corporation, Timberland Footwear, and Staples Incorporated. The Drinkwater marketing team provides dynamic tools that allows customer engagement on an ongoing basis. Businesses are integrated into the communities they serve, and it's not just a one-shot deal. These programs not only create brand awareness, but they spark consumer engagement to gain loyal customers. Simply said, survival in business today depends on the ability to create the right message and engage consumers in the message. And as a brand growth strategist, I couldn't agree more. Hey, I'm Brianna Régine, an award-winning brand growth strategist for entrepreneurs and decision makers who feel stuck and are ready to get strategic about reaching their next level. But let's be clear. In this podcast, we ditch the highlight reel and get into the raw, real stories of what it takes to build a brand from the people making it happen. No more perfect perceptions of success, no more unrealistic expectations, no more feeling powerless. This is your go-to space for the real deal Holyfield about business growth, full of obstacles, funny stories, real talk, self-reflections, hot takes on current events, and must-have tips. If you've got a fresh idea brewing, you're a sucker for new strategies and insights, or you need to be reminded of how freaking dope you are, this podcast is for you. Let's get into it. All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Brand Unveiled podcast. Today, I have a special guest who is actually featured a part of our Black Women Entrepreneurs of America campaign. She is repping New Hampshire.
Whoa.
And I would like to present to you Lisa Carter. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Brianna. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Of course. I'm glad you're here. And we are here to talk about all things Drinkwater Productions, but also you, Lisa. Also you, because it's one thing to have a business and yours has been around for nearly 20 years, which is amazing. But I'm sure that took a lot out of you personally. I always like to say that when your business grows, you grow, and vice versa. So I'm really looking forward to pulling back the layers today and figuring out what does that look like for you. And I'm sure it'll resonate and inspire our listeners. So
I'm hoping so.
awesome. So before we get into the details about your marketing and your branding business, who is Lisa?
Oh, wow. I'm just a girl from Philly who has a lot of tenacity and staying power, thus the 20 years. And I love people and I love brands and I love small businesses. So that's really who I am at the core. I love to laugh. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, and I'm a good friend.
I love the last one. The other ones are nice too, but I really love the last one and how you like proclaim that. I think it's really important, especially in entrepreneurship. It gets quite lonely. Quite
It does. I read a scripture yesterday morning that talked about purpose and partnership, and by the time I got to my meeting with a potential client yesterday, I uttered those two words, and it hit her heart. And so, purpose, knowing who you are, and I just shared a couple things, and my purpose here is to support my family as well as try to do good while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And that can't happen unless you surround yourself with really good people.
Yeah.
And a nurturing community. And that's about those partnerships. So it really resonated with my heart yesterday. And then to be able to recite those two words and know that it resonated with somebody else in the middle of the day, that was super cool.
So you're originally from Philly, but your business is headquartered based in New Hampshire.
Where
How
no one knows where that is.
Right, right. So how did that happen?
Right. So I was recruited to New England
Mm,
um, after going to college and working very new in the garment business. That was I went to Fashion Institute of Technology,
mhm.
FIT.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I lived and worked in New York City for 10 years, which that alone makes you a different human being.
Mm,
And so when I wanted to look to move out of the city, it was really hard. You know, is it Chicago? Is it LA? And then I got this opportunity to move to a little coastal town in New England. I was like, oh, I'll be on vacation every day. This is wonderful. It was if you know anything about New England, September is gorgeous. It was fall, beginning of fall foliage. They picked me up at the airport in a limo, wined and dined me, gave me housing for 6 months, and I couldn't say no to such an offer. So
yeah.
that particular brand was the private label brand for Victoria's Secret. So I
Mm,
also was embarking on something that was really at that time really hot brand. It still is, but at that time I really was excited in my 20s and really ready to take on the next chapter.
yeah, yeah. And I'm based in Connecticut and my family's
Okay.
originally from New York, but Connecticut, yeah, the New England way. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And fall here can be really pretty, especially on the Merritt Parkway. Like
Oh,
it's
it's
nice.
gorgeous. Mirror Park is gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'm a brand girl, and I worked for several Fortune 500 companies while in New England,
Mhm.
starting out in Massachusetts and then moving to New Hampshire. So New England was really a good move for me. And I look back now and I'm like, well, you know, why did you thrive so well here? And one of the things that I often mentor to others is, you know, look for those small pockets where you can navigate. And I talk about navigating a lot right now because the world is difficult to navigate. Social media is a very crowded space. Metros like New York, Chicago, Tampa, Atlanta, they're all very hard they can be very difficult or challenging.
Right.
It's not that it can't be done, but it's very challenging. And sometimes you have, you know, it's not so bad to be a big fish in a small pond.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was, not many people look like me. In terms of marketing, those areas that I moved to were pretty behind New York City, particularly where I just moved from. So there was a lot of runway for me to grow, interact, and become an expert in a very shallow, competitive market.
Mhm. And with that, I would imagine that the gap of opportunity that you saw and your perspective plays a part in your founder story when it comes to your own company.
That is correct. That is correct. I was able to, you know, I would say if you want to own a restaurant, you know, become a waiter. So I was able to work in a lot of corporate, small businesses and large enterprises. I worked for companies like Timberland Footwear, along with Victoria's Secret, and then Staples, a
Mhm.
very large big box brand in the work supply space.
Mhm.
So I got a chance to see how the inner workings of that and the hierarchies, the development of businesses, and I'm able to employ that with small business owners, dynamic duos, solopreneurs. They have the same challenges the small big guys do. We all often think as small business owners that we're the only ones. They have the same issues. Actually, they're at a disadvantage because they can't make a decision like you or I about making a change in our business or bringing on a partner. Things take a while, so they tend to move slower. But they have the same financial, social, and human capital challenges that we have as small business owners.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Curious, you mentioned that your business, excuse me, focuses on smaller businesses, solopreneurs, dynamic duos. Was that a intentional choice to focus on smaller, considering that you've worked with bigger, or was it aligned with the same perspective of like, being a big fish in a small pond and you saw opportunity?
Sure. I think that my goal was to help businesses that didn't have the large staff, didn't have um, yeah, it's a really good question, because I would often wonder, had I started out working with the same level of businesses, where my business would be today. But I did opt for the smaller guys who didn't have the same opportunities and staff, and they needed me, right, and they needed me. So I saw a demand
Mm-hmm.
for someone with my expertise to help a small guy. Now their budgets were smaller, so to your point, right, the revenue growth and opportunity is a lot smaller when you're going after small businesses. But if you look at the amount of small businesses in this country, it's the backbone uh,
Yeah.
of the country. So the volume is greater. The retention, I found too, was better. And then the conversion rate, of course, when you're trying to present to a larger company, you have a lot more
Red tape.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But once you get, it comes with a higher price tag,
Yeah.
right?
And yes, it does. Yes, it
Yeah.
does. It sure does. And I was curious to ask that question, and I'm happy to see alignment, but I'm not surprised. That was why I've started my company too. I always call the smaller folks the underdog. Like I was always rooting for the underdog. That's where I feel like I found um, happiness in my work the
Mhm.
most, because working at a PR agency, we were working with brands that were already established or established enough to afford the retainers that,
Right.
that they were paying. So,
That's right.
although they wanted additional awareness, they still weren't small or mid-sized enough in my eyes. And that has evolved over time. But I think what I mean by that is I wasn't talking to the founder of the company, or I wasn't talking to someone who had really um, the starter idea. Like, why are we doing this campaign in the first
Mm.
place? Like, why do you start this company in the first place? That was missing for me. And I feel like you get that level of intel and connection and the ability to embrace the business almost as if it's your own. And that kind of powers and stimulates how you do the work. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. You don't know how many times I sat in corporate meetings and I'm thinking, this, like, I could fix this problem tomorrow. Like, and now we've just outlined 2 months of meetings to
Yeah.
table this and follow up on this. And so, yeah, I think being in the heart of the working with community businesses where things, they actually had a heartbeat and it was thriving closer to the consumer. Absolutely. That was definitely what made me tick.
Yeah. What would you say was a turning point in your, not, I don't even say your business, but on your journey as an entrepreneur since you've been doing it for so long?
So there was a couple of turning points. The first one was when I started digital marketing not too far from when Facebook first started. Like you
Mhm.
said, it's been a couple decades. Recently, we had a huge pivot, and that was, um, it's interesting. We often have this lens of who our customers should be, right? So we go into this and we say, okay, because they teach you that, right? When you're writing a business plan or when you're starting a business, who's your target market? So I said it's everybody. And the moment we niched down,
Mhm.
the business exploded.
Oh yeah, for sure. So can you please talk about like if you could pinpoint like an example to that, because I latch onto what you just said so many times when I hear the answer everyone, and I'm like, when I'm trying to like time when I respond where I'm like, no.
So the deal is, somebody called me up and said, "Hey, you do events." And my business model was, you don't have to hire me. I'm going to show you what I can do. So
Mm,
we started out as an event company, by the way,
mhm,
and we just did a bunch of events, restaurant weeks, shopping events. People started to see that the events were successful, and oh, by the way, kept seeing it on social media.
mm,
So, hey, how can you help me be as visible as you are?
right.
And that's how we converted. We
Mm,
went on for years like that. Someone came up to me and said, "Hey, can you do an event for real estate?" And I said, well, what does that look like and how do I get paid? He said, well, what it looks like is that I'm going to pay you to fill the room with my target,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was mortgage brokers, insurance guys. And I said, so who's paying us? Because the way we do it, there's a business, they have an open house and they pay us to do that. He said, everybody in the room who wants to be in the room with this group is going to pay you. And I said, oh, like, we had done events before where there was exhibitor tables. He
Mm-hmm.
said, yeah, something like that. I had never in my life had people throwing money at me.
Mm.
I didn't realize how valuable the audience in the room was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
People were buying 2 and 3 events when prior to that, it was hard for us to get $100 for a table.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden you say, okay, well, it's still in our wheelhouse. It's an event. After the 6 or 7 of those, I met with my team and I said, "Hi, what happened with that? We did our job as an event planning team." And one of my team members said, "Lisa, we have the name of 3,000 real estate agents in the greater Boston area."
Mm.
And I said, "How did we get that?" "Well, we did the door. We did the planning, we did the door." So I leaned in and I said, "I don't know if we could drive revenue with that audience. Typically, they don't have a big budget like a restaurant or even a doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that having those names is super valuable." So we leaned into real estate. I said, I'm going to learn everything I need to know about this target audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic hit.
Mm.
No, 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 no. Do you remember what happened?
Right. No, you saw my brain, right? It's the automatic response of like pandemic, and then you're like, wait, no, but some industries, real estate being one of them. That's right. That's right. So yes, please talk about that.
So our lens, my lens was still a little foggy, right? I'm doing these events, but I had no idea what was coming behind this. This was
Yeah.
2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm going to learn this industry. So I follow people around, going back to purpose and partner. I found people who said, oh, okay, you can follow me around for the day. Oh,
Mm.
yeah. Oh, this is, you know what? I like you. You're good. I trust what you're doing. I think you actually can help my team.
Mm-hmm.
Come sit in on they saw that I was generally interested. I wanted to learn. And then we started to acquire large brokerages as our clients.
Mm.
The pandemic hits and I said, okay, we're done. Because some states they couldn't even show a house.
Yeah.
In New York, I was getting clients signing on the same day that they were getting notices from New York State that they had to close their office.
Mm.
So we stayed on Zoom like everybody else. Remember, Zoom was natural to us. We were doing
Right.
Zoom in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and we emerged from 2020 with a new office in Clearwater, Florida, free of charge, from a broker who said, "Just come down." We tripled our business,
Nice.
and right. So that was a pivot. We today still have a full silo for real estate, and we just launched a news media division dedicated to everything you need to know about moving to a new state and buying a home.
Wow.
So
So
that was major for us.
what I love about that, right? So you're almost 20 years in, and the pivot or the turning point that you just described, would you say that your business is outperforming other or past turning points that you may have had?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing to me how that is coming in what was that? Your year 16, year
Oh yeah.
17?
Oh yeah.
Right? In this timeline of two
Because
decades?
because when you choose a silo, like, if we were in healthcare, I wouldn't be able to say this.
Yeah.
But the fact that we're a tech led company, so to say, is what I guess we would, we're tech first. If you think about how quick technology is moving, if we're not staying ahead of the curve,
Right.
if we're not, of course we're using AI, right? It's like, and then what's the next thing? Robotics. So because of the lane that we chose, we have to move fast. We have to pivot. I'm excited to see what the next 5 years are going to bring, right? Because we know that not only is tech changing, but if you're watching the real estate world, that's going to look completely different
Right.
5 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So aside from the real estate silo department aspect of your company, what or who are your other clients?
We are finding a nice niche in solar, as well,
Mhm.
energy. So we have oil and gas, propane clients. Your typical oil and gas guy comes out, and then we have solar. So we're kind of put that under a cap of energy, and we're going to really lean in on that sector, whether it's oil and gas or EV vehicles and solar panels. So that whole energy sector is something that we hadn't thought about. We started acquiring clients, and now we're like, this is the next, like, that cool niche silo. So now
Mhm.
and I use the term, Brianna, the riches are in the niches.
Mhm.
So where
Mhm.
can you find your next niche where you
Yeah.
can be an expert, use your expertise?
Yeah. And what I love is you're selecting industries that are always going to be around.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
That's
They're going to go in and out. There's all,
yeah.
they always have their little bit of bumps, but
Right.
they're always going to be around.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. For someone who's been in business for approaching 20 years, I'm really curious to know more about your company culture and really like your team and what that's looked like over the past 2 decades because I'm in year 8. We officially turned 8 on February 6th.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank
Happy birthday,
you,
Sam.
thank you, thank you. And one common question that I get from other small businesses is like, I feel like I need a team. I feel like I need a team. I'm
Mm.
really curious to know your insight on that for someone who's been doing this for so long.
So entrepreneur 101, you can't scale if you don't build a team.
Hmm.
And so as hard as that is sometimes, whether that's trying to put the right people together to support your business, or trying to find the budget to put anyone together for your business, it can be difficult. But you can't scale. You just can't grow. When we found that niche in real estate, we went from me and I think two interns from University of New Hampshire to 9 full-time staff. So you have to have the capacity to be able to grow. The other thing I found is people want to be able to tap into your expertise, but they also want to know, if Brianna's not around, who else can I
Right,
call?
right.
There's a comfort level, and you can't be the only person that, if I need something done and I can't get you for a day because you're on a retreat or doing something personal or meeting. So they want to also know that there is support, in even in talking and funding. They want to know that it's not just you.
Hmm.
But that can be very difficult. During the pandemic, a lot of friends missed out, and I know as women businesses, we tend to not feel like, well, if a team costs me money, and I know that if you had a team and you had people on the payroll, it actually you definitely benefited during something like the pandemic, where it's like, well, you have to have employees for us to be able to fund that business. So there's many reasons why, but I think the number one, if you want to be a consultant and you just want to the company to be you, that is fine. You can drive revenue for yourself and make a really good living. If you always thought of yourself as an organization, you have to take a bet. You have to have human capital.
Yes. And that particular part you just said right there, if you've always thought of yourself as an organization, that hit home for me because year after year, I'm like, when I started my business, I automatically was thinking, oh, it's going to be more than just me. Like I went into it thinking that. Did you think that too? Or were you kind of just like, oh, I'll rock solo and see what happens?
I never had the solo because I came from corporate.
That's right.
But I can tell you that I am, again, always reevaluating organizational strategy
Mhm.
and where we are now. And you'll start to see a lot of companies go to this, and that's because now it's the remote status of your business and your team is very much accepted now, where it was not, I would say, a decade ago. If you
Mhm.
said, "Oh, no one's we don't have an office," people would say, "What?"
Yeah.
Then you're not a legitimate company. Now, because the remote team structure is so well accepted from little small companies to large corporations that I talk to every day, that person that's interviewing me or that person that's trying to get me to buy that software product, they're remote. They're
Yep.
not sitting in. So because of that, I think the next wave is going to be contract. When
Mm.
when I worked with Timberland, with Staples, I had to do a project for what does the workforce look like in 2030,
Mm-hmm.
and the workforce was always going to be remote contractors.
Mm.
There are a couple companies that have that now, and the one that comes to my mind is IBM. Years ago, you were an employee, but you were on sort of on a contract model,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that every year you renegotiated for your job,
Mm-hmm.
and or you could go into another job. So I think that the structure will always that we're moved to, no matter how much return to office is talked about today, the trend I see is that you will always have contractors. So while I have a team now, as we go into energy, we also have a silo for nonprofits, which we're really excited about. We didn't even think of it as a silo. We just kept acquiring nonprofit clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, this is driving a percentage of our business.
Mm-hmm.
Let's really lean in. So instead of staffing up with the traditional workforce I had, I'm hiring consultants to be on my team to service
Yep.
that nonprofit. So I think this whole idea of, if you don't worry about the budget to build a team, just find the best people and bring them on as contractors.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a team. It's still
Mm-hmm.
a team. They don't have to be W-2 necessarily.
Nope, they don't. That's what I have. I have contractors. That's what I've always
Yeah.
had. I've always had, a desire and a wonder of like, oh, should it be W-2? Should it be employee? And that's not completely off the table, but I've always had contractors. It's the
Really?
company, yeah, it's the company culture that creates loyalty among the contractors, and
Yes.
also just treating them with respect, and also meeting them in the middle too, of like, okay, you applied for this job description, but like, what are your interests really, and aligning them and pouring into them, as theoretically the corporation should be doing. That's another episode for another day. But yeah, just like pouring into them because they pour into me, with me understanding you're a contractor, you can do whatever you want, and that's still the case. But while you're giving value and you're, supporting the buy-in that's available to you at the agency, I'm in return gonna try and, do what I can to show that I'm appreciative of you. And I think if you go about creating a team of contractors in that way, then they'll operate just like employees, quote unquote. You know,
Yes, and
be
there
careful.
are some.
Don't be careful. Don't get caught up by the IRS. Now you can't.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, there are some legalities
Yes,
to all of
yes,
that,
yes,
and payroll and things like that. I do believe that making sure that you do follow the standards
absolutely.
in each state. So we did make sure that as we grew that remote workforce, that we were checking in with my accountant and lawyers to make sure that
Mhm.
we were set up properly in each of those, and also the keeping your intellectual property.
Yeah.
Yeah, making sure that, like you said, contractors can work for multiple
Mhm.
organizations, and making sure that happens in your organization is not shared with their other employer.
Yeah.
Uh, so there are some
Legalities.
yeah, legalities, and
Yeah.
some things you should definitely watch out for.
Mhm.
Do you is anyone from your team out of the country, international?
Not currently, no, but I've had like people pop in here and there for assistance, and it's been helpful. It gets
Yeah,
the job done. But you're totally right. I think if people go the contractor route, that you don't own them like quote unquote
right.
corporations own employees. So you have to respect that technically they can work wherever they want, whenever they want. And if anything, they're accommodating you. So
That's
you
right.
you definitely have to be mindful of that. But still, if you have a healthy work environment and culture that keeps all these things in mind and remains intentional, you'll get the loyalty that you want, that an employee, a W-2 person would give you too.
Brianna, I always thought, well, it's a luxury to work remote. It's a luxury, and being a digital marketing agency, we never have a problem recruiting.
Mhm.
But I got to tell you, one thing I never told anybody is, when you're in these meetings and you're working from home, dress, appearance.
Mhm.
And so we're having a meeting, and this young lady that we had in Florida, she must have just come back from a convenience store, and she takes out her iPad and she's sitting down on the sidewalk having her meeting with us in front of our client, or she's at the
Oh,
pool and the pool's in the background, and I'm like, no,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
it,
That's yeah.
it's work from home office.
Right, right, right.
Not work from home pool. You
Yeah,
can do that, but I don't want our clients seeing you at the pool while we're discussing their business.
right. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, definitely being mindful of that. Don't take remote way too far, especially in front of
Right.
the client, for
Yeah.
sure.
I don't want to see you in your bathrobe. I don't want to
Yeah,
see you.
exactly, exactly. At this point, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud to still be here. I'm so
Mhm.
proud to still be in business. I have so many people that some of the people are doing business with us because we showed the tenacity. She
Mhm.
must know what she's doing. She must know what she's talking about. I trust her because she has been around for so long advising businesses. But so I'm glad, I'm proud that in a time where you see so many people give up, that no matter what the business environment was, no matter who the administration politically was, we kept going with our mission to work with small businesses. But what's really getting me jazzed now is that we are creating these news media sites for every state.
Mhm.
So I'm terrified and exuberated at the same time. So this is the biggest project we've taken on. We're getting great partners and great response, but this takes Drinkwater Marketing 20 business in 20 years from just a very aggressive solopreneur from Philadelphia to be a news media company. And so I am very proud of where we are and where we're going with that.
No, I love that. So, without getting too much into the details and what you may be able to share and what you're not able to share, is the concept every state will have a platform where they're able to keep their constituents abreast of all of the things that they have going on, essentially?
So not a web. So that sounds a little bit like a website. We're actually a news content creators cranking out news every day
Mhm.
about the state, in terms of helping you make a decision. So
Mm,
if you ever thought about living in Florida,
I
uh,
see.
right,
I
right.
see.
Right now, you have a bunch of people in with climate change and climate risk, from hurricanes down in Florida to wildfires in California, to rain storms in Texas. And so I am actively becoming a migration expert. So I'm looking at migration patterns all the way back from Katrina,
Mm,
how that pattern to the pandemic, right? So we have all of these things in history that make people migrate to a certain place, and then your milestone, right? You'll graduate high school, and you'll look for a place for a career or for a secondary education. That's a migration, and what makes you choose one part of the country over another. And then after your first job, right, may cause you
right.
to migrate. So all of those activities, I and my team study every day.
Wow.
So we're now looking at what's that next migration pattern for the Los Angeles County residents, and it's a lot of them, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right. And is the purpose to just inform consumers, or is it also to inform like the tourism departments of each state?
Sure, that's a great question. I love you, and we should work together. But
Well, let's talk.
right. So we're close to the consumer, and
Okay.
so but who's going to benefit is tourism,
Right.
municipalities. And when we built this, we knew that it was just the expertise we had in servicing that niche of real estate. But then when we pulled back a little bit, sometimes you're in your own weeds. When we pulled back, we said, well, this is economic development.
Yep.
And so if from a higher, 50,000 feet versus 30,000 feet, economic development now you're a service to
Yep.
municipalities across the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I think that's great. I think that's also really smart. I think a lot of small businesses, and I didn't come up with this idea at all. I actually heard it from Gary Vee years ago, where he proposes every business should operate like a media company.
Love it.
Every
Love it.
single one.
Yeah.
So you're on track there. And I thought one of your most proudest accomplishments was actually going to be the name of your company, because I I think it's so cool. I think it's
Really?
yeah. I think it's so like Drinkwater Marketing, Drinkwater Productions. I just
So
think
Drinkwater is a road. That's it's only the name of the street that we started. Yeah, and it happens to go through. And I love the street, the road here in where I am in New England, because it goes through several towns. It's almost like a boulevard in a city. But in one part of that road, there's people who own llamas, and other parts of it, is elementary school. So Drinkwater, all one word, was just based on a location. But people always ask me, "Where'd you get that name?" And are you a water company?
yeah, that's funny. See, I'm over here thinking so deep about it. I'm like, drink water. Everyone needs water. She's showing that her brand is essential to success. Like, that's what I really thought.
We do have the water on our website. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I really thought. Well, that's cute too. I like that it's the name of a road. I like when brands do that, where it's like you know if you know,
You know,
like
if
you know if you know. To
love it.
close, one thing that I always ask the guests on my show are about trends. What marketing, branding, events, real estate trends do you like right now? And which ones do you absolutely hate?
I definitely I'm not feeling the pullback trend of not being diverse,
Mm,
offering equity, or being inclusive. I just had a conversation with woman yesterday who's coming on as a client, and she said, diversity just means everyone, and equity just means all, and inclusive means for everybody. So why wouldn't you want to participate in those words? So I think we get caught up in the politics of that. So I'm a little sad
yeah.
and we service quite a few DEI consultants, so we're actively helping them pivot to what that to and maybe in marketing, as you know, because you just displayed what words. So Drinkwater for me was a road. For you, it had another meaning. So if we're really talking about the fact that you don't want us to use the initials DEI anymore, then that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. That's fine if it's about words, and words do matter. But the premise that you would be exclusive
Right.
in your business is nonsense, right? You would want everyone to be a part of your brand.
Right.
And so I'm doing workshops on that right now. I'm not a social justice expert, but what I do know is that if your brand, Brianna, the more people that can be exposed to you and your brand, the better it is for your business. So it's a great thing to do, and it's also really good for business. And so the ski industry right now is experiencing climate change. They're having shorter winters. And so I'm actively working with those ski resorts to say, what does it look like if you had more people and gave more access to the sport of ski? And what are those pockets that you're missing in your marketing
Yep.
to more diverse audiences of skiers? Because right now we're in a culture that outdoor is everything. It doesn't matter what you look like, right? Everyone loves outdoor. So how do you make your outdoor brand inclusive of everyone?
I love that. I love that you touched on like a trend that you don't like and then gave an example of what people should be doing.
Yeah,
Instead,
yeah.
you know?
The one that I guess the trend I think that I mean, obviously I love the AI,
It's so helpful.
so helpful.
It's so helpful. Maybe we're biased because of the work that we do.
I am concerned that as a society we haven't planned for what that means in terms of workforce.
Mm,
So we will have a reduction of workforce
hmm.
because of AI. And then what do you do with that workforce?
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I don't know. My mom, um, on her podcast with her friends, that briefly came up, and she vocalized that she thinks that it's going to impact workforce regardless. But as far as reducing jobs, I mean, we don't know the stats. Maybe, but I think it could be advantageous if you know how to use it in your role. Like in
well,
your role.
I can tell you right now that we, for the positions in this new project,
Mhm.
with the news media, we won't need as many people. So
There's something like that. Yes, I see.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're starting to see that in different industries, and it'll continue. But the good news is that the workforce that will be pushed out of that, they'll be retrained for other things and other ways to interact. And we think about how the social media and the internet, a
Mhm.
lot of people were doing manual things. They didn't lose their job. They just started to learn how to adopt those tools to get
Right.
it done. Right.
Exactly, exactly, and be complementary
Right.
to the
Right.
technology. Yeah.
Right. So there used to be telephone operators. When you wanted to make a phone call, you would say, I need to call,
Mhm.
Brianna Régine, and she would connect me. So she's not there anymore. I can call you direct. But there is someone because the amount of people and amount of technology that is servicing the customer direct with the
Right,
right,
right.
with your products, with your devices. So no more phone operators, but there's a lot of staff and customer service with AT&T and T-Mobile and all of those telephone those brands, right?
Yeah,
That service. So
yeah.
um, just moving the skill set
Mhm.
to a different point. So we're gonna have to learn how to do that.
And yeah, and embrace that the evolution is coming,
Oh
basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah. And
here.
I mean, who's going to be? I mean, then we need a workforce to try to man all of those autonomous vehicles,
Yeah.
right? And so those are the jobs that are a lot of the jobs that are here today were not here 20 years ago when I started this company.
Mhm. Right, right.
There was no brand ambassador. There was no,
Well,
there was no TikTok star
mhm.
20 years ago. So
Yeah.
new things crop up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you have had so much insight into this conversation. Like I feel like we could talk for a very, very, very long time. But I'm so glad that my audience and the audience as it continues to grow, they come and realize who Lisa Carter is and what Lisa Carter does and the impact and the knowledge that you have. And I hope that they leave inspired, honestly, after listening or watching your story and hearing about your expertise too.
Well, I love your show, and you're great. You're a great host, and wonderful to talk to. So this has been an absolute pleasure for me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Where can people follow you and learn more about you?
Sure. Drinkwater. You can. I think the best place to understand what I'm doing and what the team is doing is to get on LinkedIn. I just love that platform right now. So on LinkedIn, I'm Lisa Carter Knight, and you can follow us on Drinkwater Marketing as our website. But check out the Let's move to New York. Let's move to Massachusetts. Let's move to Florida. Those are some great brands that we have out there right now to follow.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next Tuesday. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. All of that good stuff. And Lisa, we'll see you on the other side.
All right, baby. Thank